are you really more interested in the opening up of, let us say, the solar ecosystem as a whole, but Mars is the best destination? Or do you feel like Mars is the singular, most important destination? Is it the one that really deserves the most attention because it's the most Earth-like and it has water and so on?
It's the one that deserves the most attention now. It's not the limit. It's not the ultimate goal. As Michael Collins once said, it's not the destination, it's the direction.
Mhm.
And it is the new world for our time. Okay, and it is the key to creating a spacefaring civilization, which ultimately will not only develop the solar system but open the path to the stars.
So even though, well, that goes to terraforming, for example. How do you feel about that in the sense that it would be a fundamental alteration of the ecosystem? Is it your view that that is acceptable ethically and you would
Oh,
have
I think
no
it's not only acceptable, I think it's extremely desirable. I think that the idea, okay, look, if you can destroy an environment, you can improve an environment. Okay.
Mhm.
It's not that all change is wrong. Some changes are good, some changes are bad. Okay. Now, if anybody came along and said, let's make Earth like Mars, let's get rid of all these forests and cities and people and even the fish and so forth, and let's just have some bacteria here, people would say, hey, you're out of your mind. Okay. Uh, and it wouldn't just be the Sierra Club that would have that position. That position would be taken by anyone except for some kind of death cultist. Okay. Now, we all would agree that would be a horrible thing to do. Okay. Now, so therefore, if one could do the reverse and take a dead planet and bring it to life with a glorious biosphere as well as creative human civilizations, that clearly be a wonderful thing. And to abort that from happening would be criminal. Okay. So there it is. It's this idea that anything humans do that changes the environment is intrinsically wrong. I don't buy it. Okay, that's just being anti-human. Anything you do is wrong. Okay,
well,
there are some things we do that are right and some things we do that are wrong. And this would be something we could do that would be right. And I think if we did it, everyone would be proud to be human and contemplate. No
what
one
do
could look upon it and not be proud to be human.
what do you think is the largest number of people that could be supported on Mars? I mean, assuming that you were in charge and everything you thought should be done was done, can you imagine what the carrying capacity might be?
Well, okay, there's no such thing as carrying capacity of a planet. It is people that carry people. Okay. In other words, these people, you know, uh, who say, oh, the Earth only has a carrying capacity of 1 billion people. Well, that's not true. There's 8 billion people on Earth, and we're living vastly better than we were in the 1950s, let alone the 1850s or the 1050s. And okay, but let's take a step back. Okay. I believe that Mars will be settled by a multitude of city states with diverse ideas on what the best society should be. Okay. The Mars Society held a contest a couple of years ago on design of Mars colonies. And between the two contests that we held, there was almost 300 entries, and they designed social systems, everything. I mean, most of them were on a spectrum from social democratic to libertarian, but there were also other ideas that didn't even fit into that spectrum. Okay. And you could argue about this stuff. Should there be universal basic income, or does that suppress initiative? And okay, well, there's going to be people with all sorts of ideas. And you know what's going to decide which one prevails? It's which one works the best, which one attracts the most immigrants and it creates the greatest economic prosperity and has the most children. Okay, all these things will be involved, and you could have some that work well enough to survive, but they will be outgrown by others that work so much better at every level, from the technological to the political and economic to the aesthetic, that they attract far more immigrants and outgrow them, and they become the model of what Mars becomes. Okay. And so now the terraforming, I think, will eventually happen because it's the nature of life to transform barren environments into those that are favorable for the development of life. That's how life transformed the earth radically from its initial condition to now. And so we're going to do that. But obviously that won't be done until there is a rather substantial human presence on Mars that has large-scale industrial and technological capabilities that can actually address a project on that scale. But I see no reason why there couldn't be thousands of cities of 100,000, eventually a million or more on Mars, just as there are now on Earth. I mean, look, 500 years ago, there were only, maybe one city on Earth, maybe Beijing or something, that had 1 million people. And at an earlier date, there was also ancient Rome. Now there are dozens, I don't know how many cities there are, probably at least 100 cities in the Earth with over 1 million people. I haven't counted, but there's quite a few. And maybe several hundred. So our potential is increasing. You go to Mars, there's no such thing as a natural resource. There's only natural raw materials. It is human technology that turns a raw material into a resource. Land was not a resource until people invented agriculture. And its magnitude as a resource has been multiplied many times over as agricultural technology has advanced. Oil was not a resource until 1859, when Colonel Drake drilled the first oil well, and then it became a much bigger resource as we discovered a lot more oil and figured out more products that it could do beyond lighting lanterns, and invented all sorts of machines that could run on stuff like gasoline and everything. Okay. Uranium was not a resource till we developed nuclear power as a way to make red dishes. Now it's a giant resource. Do you know, okay, you live in New England, right?
I do.
Okay, so you got these granite mountains in New Hampshire. Okay, do you know that a kilogram of New Hampshire granite contains enough uranium and thorium to generate 100 times as much energy as an equal mass of gasoline?
I did not know that.
Okay, I mean, think about that for a minute. Okay, now, we don't in fact get our uranium from granite. We get it from more concentrated sources. But if you wanted to, if you really had to, you could. So, it's like Moses got water out of the rock. We could get energy out of rocks, okay? And it's not the rock, it's the creative thought that's brought to the rock that turns it into a source of energy, okay? Okay, so if you next time you drive through New Hampshire and you see all these great granite mountains around you, there's mountains of energy all around you, mountains of it. Okay, vastly more than the oil of Saudi Arabia, and it's all a question of developing the technology. Now, now, if you have energy, you can make all sorts of chemical transformations that can create anything you want. Okay, and so we go to Mars and there's also deuterium on Mars. Actually, deuterium is 5 times as common on Mars as it is on Earth, and that's the basic fuel for fusion reactors. So between the Martian thorium and Martian deuterium, and so you got energy, and if you've got creative people there, okay, if you got resourceful people there, you'll have resources there, okay, because it's the resourceful people that create the resources. It's a very common observation. So I think, yeah, Mars can someday be a planet with the population density comparable to the Earth.